Hello, everyone, and welcome to Emerging Brands Franchises on the Rise. I'm your host, Cash Miller, CEO of Titan Media Works. We do podcast production, and we talk franchises on this show. There are so many great opportunities out there. I've got another one with me today, Paint EZ, Jay Mason. He's president of the company. We're talking painting today, which is an always in-demand type service. Jay, it's great to have you on. Tell us a bit about your franchise business. What's the backstory? Why did you get into painting of all things?
Well, thanks, Cash, for having me on today. And I appreciate the question. I've been involved with the paint industry really my whole life. My dad spent 45 years working with Sherwin-Williams Corporation. And so I was around painting contractors as a young kid, and for some reason just fell in love with the industry. And so at 16 years of age, I was able to start working for the company and worked as a store associate on my way up to management, sales the last 4 years there, and had the opportunity to work with a lot of small business painting contractors, which was a really great experience to learn the industry. I was then recruited away by another painting franchise and spent 2 years there working, developing systems and processes with them, training new franchisees, and then running their corporate store. And so I was able to really learn the paint franchising niche that there is out there. And 9 years ago, started the company, Emerald Pro Painting, and really was kind of just not intentional about franchising out of the gate. I realized I was missing training new franchise owners, but wasn't really intentional about growing the franchising sector of our business until we started franchising 7 years ago, and just kind of added one franchisee at a time for about one per year over the first 5 or so years. And then coming out of COVID, really had a realization that I can have a cute little business or really start investing and having an intentional thought behind how are we going to grow this, develop it. And so that's where we actually went through a rebrand coming out of COVID and went from Emerald Pro Painting to Paint EZ. And one of the things as I was whiteboarding coming out of COVID was, how do we make the painting experience better for our clients? How do we make being a franchise owner easier or better than what it was before? And so that's really where the name Paint EZ came from. And everything that we do is really centered around how can we make working with us easier than maybe other franchise brands as well.
Yeah, you're a rare breed, because there are not many people that get into an industry, especially something like painting, like from the teenage years, and then stick to something that, for their career. And then, of course, so, I mean, it gives you an interesting insight because you've seen, how the industry would change over time, products would change and such, but it's a true in-depth knowledge of the business. And then you've also been on the franchise side where you've seen how other, a different franchise, same industry, but a different one operated. So you've got some really good insight on kind of what works and what doesn't in the space, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It leads us to really lead from a place of really technical specifications. We do a lot of technical training where a lot of other franchises do more franchise-based training. And we do that so that our franchise owners make good recommendations. I saw it too many times in the past where poor recommendations would be made, failures happen, then they have costs to remedy the situation versus let's just make the right recommendation from the start. And so we really work a lot on the technical training aspect. And then having worked with another painting franchise, I really saw what it looked like to not really care about your franchise owners and really be more franchise or focused versus franchisee focused. And so we've kind of tried to do a 180 on that. And that's really our first thing is how do we be franchisee focused and really develop around that.
Well, I think that's extremely important because if you're not, you need to be focused on the franchisees before yourself, because for you to be successful, they have to be successful. Yeah, it's not just about your royalties and stuff, that you would get, or franchise fees that are paid. They are the brand. They are representing the brand. And when they go out on a job or do an estimation or anything, it is a reflection on the ecosystem as a whole, on all of your franchisees, not just them.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things that we train is protecting your turf from the start. That, not only are you protecting your own reputation locally, but you're also protecting the turf of all the other franchisees as well that are part of the ecosystem.
Yeah. So it's important, from a recruitment standpoint. So I'll start there. When you're looking or talking to potential franchisees, what's your criteria? What are you looking for that you think makes a good franchisee, especially in the painting space?
Yeah, first and foremost, we're actually not looking for them to be painters or ever pick up a paintbrush. And that's one of the questions I get is, do I actually have to paint? And no, we actually don't want them to be painters or really know how to paint, because they will actually do none of the painting themselves. And so we don't even train them to become a painter. And so that's first and foremost. We're actually looking for people outside of the painting industry as a whole. Typically, our criteria is more: are they from a management or a sales background, or from a financial space? We found that franchisees that are most successful either have a management background, they know how to sell a product, or they have a financial background and can really manage a P&L and put the right people in place to do the rest as well.
I think that's important. Like what you're looking for are true business owners. So you're not focused on, hey, we bring you in and, because a lot of businesses, and especially the painting space, because a lot of people will think that painting is not that hard. Now, once you actually go to do it, that's a different story. But a lot of people that get into the space as independent owners, they're not affiliated with franchises. They're creating jobs for themselves. Yeah, they end up doing all the painting. You're not that. You're not like, hey, you're going to come in, we're going to teach you how to be this great painter, and then you'll build staff around that. No, we want you to be a great business owner, and we will help you recruit staff that are talented, that can do the job correct. But we need you to run the business because that's what you're building is a business.
Yeah, 100% correct. And the nice thing with our business model is it actually doesn't need employees. If they don't want, they can actually be an owner operator or little employees. As far as the labor to do the work, we utilize subcontractors, and we train and have systems on how to get the right subcontractors. And having had the background working with subcontractors from the Sherwin-Williams days actually helps look at it from a little bit different mindset than other franchises or others who try to utilize subcontractors. Just having had many years of, kind of knowing how the actual painting contractor ticks and what would make them successful as well. And so we try to really develop relationships around that.
Well, so the subcontractor model, that's interesting because it gives you some flexibility there, obviously, because you're not going to have, you're not taking on the payroll costs, on a permanent basis. You're taking it on as a job by job. So correct. The role of the business owner is they do have to manage, the subcontractors that they work with, and they've got to do estimations, I would assume, with, customers and things like that. And of course, they got to do all the books and whatnot. As they build up, they will start to remove themselves from some of those tasks. Is that about, how it works with your model?
Yeah, correct. If they're in an owner operator role, they would do more of the sales and management of the subcontractors. And then we have a growth model that actually starts removing them even from those positions as they grow and scale, adding, salespeople or project managers in place. As far as some of the administrative side, we try to remove those barriers right from the start, though. We actually handle bookkeeping services through a third-party affiliate company, and work on a lot of the back end stuff right from the start so that we can alleviate some of those admin pains that come with a lot of small businesses from the start.
That's good too, because like I said, when you're doing a painting, business, I mean, certain types of businesses, the service is essentially the same. You might charge different for the market and everything. So if you've got a contractor that you're using that's for bookkeeping or whatnot, they're going to know that business. If you've got other franchisees working with them, and for them, it's an easier process to duplicate. That's one of the beauties, of course, of franchising is you have systems in place that are already proven. So you've got a lot of that already set up.
Right. Yeah. Standardized charts of accounts from an accounting perspective to, as you mentioned, all the standardized systems and processes and growth models and whatnot. And so we can plug in these owners, and depending on their goals and where they're trying to shoot for, we can actually help them get to those points.
So it's a good opportunity from a business owner standpoint, depending on how involved they want to be, but they could potentially put someone in place for the day-to-day stuff, depending on, what their ultimate goal is. So let's get into the investment, and then we can go into the training and things. So what kind of investment does, somebody that wants to be a franchisee, what kind of money are they going to have to put out to get going in this business?
Yeah, entry level on the owner operator side, 72,000. And then on the high side, if they're doing a semi-absentee role, would be in the 154 range.
Okay, so give me some kind of a breakdown of where some of this money is going, like from a franchisee perspective, because it sounds like you're not going to necessarily need an office, but you may need a vehicle of some sort. You might be including that. I don't know. So walk me through it.
Yeah. So we have the initial franchise fee. And then aside from that, there would be marketing costs, marketing budgets that's set aside depending on the goals. That's one of the nice things too. We have an internal marketing team that is dedicated to our franchise owners. And so we don't have any third-party administration costs. There's no, so whatever budget's set aside for that owner is going directly to their budgets, which is a big differentiator versus a lot of companies there. But then outside of those marketing budgets, yes, there would be, whether it's a vehicle for themselves or an employee, they would have a wrapped vehicle, and that could either be a leased or purchased vehicle. We have some recommendations as far as those cars, but not going out and buying lavish vehicles or anything like that is not recommended within our system.
So it's not the contractor that goes into business and immediately buys the biggest, most expensive truck they can get.
No, we definitely try to shy away from that. We actually had a partner recently that wanted to buy a Ford Lightning right out of the gate, and we're like, no, please, let's hold that until we start building revenues, and then we can talk about Ford Lightnings down the road.
Yeah, I've never understood that. It's always contractors that want to do that kind of thing. They like buy some because they think, because of their business, that it suddenly justifies spending the money on a brand new truck that is like super big, and I need towing power or whatever it might be, whatever their reasoning. I'm like, really? I don't see it, but like get going first, Okay. So to get up and running is not too bad. And you're going to do the contractor. So I want to ask you about that a little bit. If you're going to use subs, how do you typically go about, finding them? Like, what's the process? Are you helping them find them, or just teaching the owners how to get, to hunt them down? Because you got to get those partnerships in place.
Yeah, we actually have amazing relationships with Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, and Bear. And with those three vendors, we actually work on a localized level with them to find painters who would want to almost partner with a company like us to be able to keep their workflow consistent and everything like that. Because with subcontractors, really, they're good painters, but they're not necessarily good marketers, salespeople.
Right.
They struggle managing calendars. They don't necessarily want to go meet with the customer and work out colors, all of those kind of things that we handle all of those stressors for them and put them in good, consistent work.
Do you have problems, because if you're using subs, and obviously there's going to be, because you're going to have good ones and you're going to have, not so good ones. So how do you kind of like navigate that problem? Because every time they go on site, and they're handling a job. And the owner of that particular franchise isn't, not going to be there all day or anything, keeping an eye on them. What do you do when issues arise?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, if an issue arises, just being there to support the situation, whether it's from us at corporate or the franchise owner or their staff, being there present. We actually have a piece of technology that works similar to like FaceTime, but we can actually go live on site with a call with our subcontractor and the homeowner or business owner and actually remedy those situations, even if we're not right there on site.
Okay.
And so that's one thing. But I think before that is actually being proactive. We have standardized checklists for each and every project. And if you're doing your job, if we're doing our jobs right and following the checklist from the start, then they usually don't get to a point where the problems, it's usually like, oh, I found this one little touch up and can you help me get that little touch up done? It's not where it's a big problem or things like that. So I found being proactive is a lot better than the reactive nature.
For a mature franchise, one that's been around a few years and operating, how many subs might they end up working with? Just different, subcontractors? Because eventually you're going to get a point where, you're taking on multiple jobs in the same day. I would assume. Right. So how many do you end up having to juggle?
Yeah, our mature owners are doing 5 to 6, usually per week on average.
Okay. So they're working with 5 to 6 subs per week, or they're doing 5 to 6 jobs per week? Okay, subs.
Working with 5 to 6 subs, and that could be anywhere from 5 to 10 projects, depending on the length of the projects.
Yeah. Okay. So you end up with a few that you've got to deal with, but depending on, you'll build working relationships with them. When those subs are on site, they're totally representing the brand, or they given stuff that says, hey, we're with Paint Easy and things, shirts and all that.
So we provide the T-shirts. We actually put magnets on their vehicles while they're there on the job site. Yard signs out.
Here, today you're Paint Easy.
Yeah. It's one of those things that we talk to them that, hey, once you leave the job site, you don't necessarily have to represent us, because we understand you have your own company entity and, those kind of things. But we build really good, strong relationships, in some ways we consider it a partnership. There's a set agreement that we have, standardized subcontractor agreement that we work with between our franchise owners and their subcontractors. But outside of that is really building a relationship where it's almost like a partnership, because without each other, we really don't have businesses. And so we need to work together to help build each other.
Do any of the franchises ever hire the painters directly as staff?
Yes, we have some locations that do that, and we're actually, for 2024, one of our milestones is to add an actual W-2 model, because there are some states that are requiring more of the W-2 model versus a subcontractor, and so we're preparing for that.
Yeah, there are, there's definitely been some changes there, on a subcontractor note with all the gig jobs and everything, states have come down, they've changed the rules a bit because they don't totally like that part of the model. Although it's one of those things, I don't think that like this really should fall under it, but it could be affected by it regardless, what a business owner might think. Politicians being what they are. Okay, so let's get into the training, since these guys are focused, especially initially, they're going to be using subs. So what kind of training do you have to, because you still have to train on the products and things. It's not just, here's the systems for running the business. You got to get beyond that. So what's the training program how long it, look like, and how long does it take to go through it?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And this is one of the areas we feel like that we'd really differentiate from a lot of home service franchises. We start off with an initial 3-week training program. First week is an online university that we have set up through our LMS. And then at the end of the day, there's a recap call that's an hour recap call that we go through and give them some quizzes and homework for the next day. After the first week, they actually visit us here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and go out with some of our other franchise owners. And we consider them our mentor franchise week, where they're actually out with them. And then they spend a little bit of time with us here at corporate headquarters as well. And then the third week, this is one that we really differentiate by, is we actually go out to their location and do a launch. So we're actually helping them make sales, recruiting the subcontractors, and really getting them off the ground from the right way to start with. What I found with a lot of other franchises is they'll have you come to the corporate office for a week, kind of, learn the systems and processes, and then send you out to your market and let you fail your way forward. We want to actually kind of hold your hand from the start and let them see what does some positive interactions look like in their market versus failing their way forward. And so we really start off that way. And then outside of that, the first 60 days, there's daily check-ins on all of their quotes and projects so that we make sure that they're really getting a grasp of the systems and processes. And then outside of that, there's a weekly Thursday technical training as well. And so for the first year, they're on a technical training with us every Thursday as well.
And walk me through, because I've talked to some franchisors that they have some fairly robust customer service. Since you've got this business owner. So walk me through from the point of marketing, so what does that look like that potentially drives some leads? Because I'm wondering how they get off the ground, get that initial business, but also the customer service point, because there's still one person, right, initially that is handling things. So what does that look like? What kind of support as you as the franchisor providing them?
Yeah, as far as the support on the customer service standpoint, we have a call center that's open 24/7, 365. And so they're able to field any kind of calls. There's a list of FAQs that they're able to answer. They can patch the call to the franchise owners or their staff, depending on what the question or concern may or may not be. And then as far as just scheduling appointments, that's all handled through the call center or directly through our website. So on our website, somebody can schedule an appointment directly through the site at their own convenience. When it comes to the marketing standpoint, as I mentioned, we have an internal marketing team that's dedicated just specifically to the franchisees and their and what they're trying to accomplish with their territories. We have a grand opening package that consists typically of Facebook and Instagram marketing, Google ads, and then some printed media that goes out into the marketplace as well, along with some press releases. And so there's kind of an initial grand opening budget that's set aside from that. And then based upon the franchise owner's goals, then we set a plan. So there's a monthly meeting that occurs with each of the franchise owners where they meet with our marketing staff to, look at the goals and what they're wanting to accomplish each and every month. And we set the plan in place for them from a marketing standpoint.
Okay. So they get up and running. What I'm wondering now is, what does this opportunity look like? What are some of from a sales standpoint, what are some of the best franchisees, able to accomplish? And also typically, because anybody investing in franchises, they want to know how long it takes, at least on average, to get to where they're at least breaking even. Because otherwise, any business owner, you've paid out these initial franchisees, or franchise fees, and then you're out of pocket because you got costs until you get to there. So what's the break even, just the length of time usually look like? What kind of a range could they be expecting?
Yeah, we find that usual break even 6 to 12 months, depending on if they're owner operator or semi-absentee. The semi-absentee is a little bit longer point to get to.
You got to pay the guy. Yeah. You got to pay the guy that's operating the business every day. Right.
But as far as the performance of the franchise owners, our average franchise owner up to this point, this last year was 743. Our top franchise owner did 1.8 million.
Wow.
But the thing that's more exciting is probably the new blood that we've had come into the organization in this last year. They're probably even a little bit more hungry and growth oriented than some of the original franchise owners. And so we foresee, those numbers going up pretty consistently over the next handful of years with some of these owners that are coming in.
What does, I'm sure you figured out this number, the average cost of a painting job? Because I asked this because I'm wondering how many jobs do you have to do over the course of a year to get to
Yeah.
any of these kinds of numbers, whether it's on the lower end or on the higher end that you mentioned?
Yeah. National average is $5,000 for a paint
Wow.
job nationally.
Huh.
Um, and that's with our system. We find that with a lot of other organizations, it's lower than that, because we have, just outside of traditional painting, we have other services that are offered, as well as add-on pieces to ourselves that can make the jobs a little bit larger than other
Hmm.
painting companies. National average, I believe, last I looked, was 3,800 as an
Okay.
average job size.
So, but you're able to come in a bit higher. What are some of those kinds of add-ons that you mentioned, that they're able to sell? Because that's one of the beauties of a franchise is it's able to test certain things that might be able to,
Right.
be included in service packages. So, what have you got going on?
Yeah, we have over 10 standard services outside of just your residential interior and exterior painting. We also focus on the commercial end of things, but cabinet painting and refinishing,
Hmm.
garage floor coatings or other concrete coatings. And so I know there's some businesses that's just solely a franchise. And
Yeah.
so we actually do the as kind of one of our standard product offerings, drywall repairs, wallpaper and removal and installation, popcorn ceiling removal, and
People still
then
use wallpaper.
yeah, it's actually making a big comeback nationally right now. It's funny, we've removed so much wallpaper, and now it's making the comeback with new trends, and so it's kind of funny just to see the way things go through cycles.
Yeah. Hopefully, it looks better than my grandmother's ever did.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it? There's a huge, I can't think of the name. There's a huge hotel in West Virginia. I can't think of the name right now, but if you go
Greenbrier?
in, yeah, the Greenbrier. Thank you.
Yeah.
Been there a few times. If you go in, everything's wallpapered. It's all green and pink. And I'm like, this is like my grandmother, her grandmother, freaking, did the decorating. It's like, it's a great hotel, but oh my God. I'm like, so you say wallpaper. That's the first thing I think of is theirs.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny. We still remove a lot of it, but installing a lot more. And I will say that they do tend to be a lot more muted than some of those wallpapers from the 70s. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes
it's
sense.
coming
Yeah,
back.
it's got to blend in a little more, than it used
Right.
to. Oh, that's great. Wallpaper making a comeback. Yeah. So overall, you've got a pretty interesting, opportunity here because with using the subs, that makes it easier. Like it's keeping your startup costs on a bit lower.
Right.
Certainly more flexible and you've got the robust support on the back end, especially on a customer service standpoint. So, what are some of the best practices, for a franchisee just getting going? They've opened their doors. What are some of the best practices that you're typically recommending to your franchisees to get up and out the gate quickly?
Well, from a quick standpoint, it's always from more of a digital marketing standpoint and then being involved with the systems and processes. But I'm more about what's the long-term build of the company and the long-term health of the company. And it comes from a community build. Nobody is going to know you better than your own local community. And so you really have to be involved. Join different chambers of commerce, join BNI networks, be involved in community events that are out there, and so that's one of the biggest things that we really talk about and focus a lot on throughout the year is where can we build those relationships in the community that will actually help build your business long term.
Got it. Okay, I have one final question. What is that one thing that makes Paint Easy different from all the other painting franchises, but also independent painters and stuff? What's that one thing that you think makes you stand out?
Well, I think it goes back to the name being Paint Easy and really focusing on the easy aspect of the business. And having a simplified process is whether somebody wants to call in and get scheduled via our call center or on our website. But some of our technology pieces that we have in place, the number one reason that somebody does not move forward with a paint project is actually color paralysis. There's so many color options and they really don't know what it's going to look like. And so we actually have an AI tool that we can take a picture of their room or their exterior or their cabinets and actually show them. And it's live. So we'll take the picture on an iPad, design it right there with them. And that really helps them move forward. Another thing that we're excited about for 2024 is the launch of our AI instant quoting tool. So somebody will be able to visit our website where we can, through ads, actually have them be able to get the quote for themselves at their own convenience as well. What that will do is cut down customer acquisition costs for our franchise owners. And we're in a world where everyone wants instant gratification, and so with the Amazon effect. And so we've really focused on being able to use this AI tool that will be just the same as if we were in person, or if they, want to do it at their own convenience as well.
And that's why if you want to get into the painting business, you should own a franchise, because it's those kinds of tools that give you the edge over your competition. And often as an independent business owner, you don't have access to those things because there is scale. And I assume you've got buying power too, with those vendors you mentioned earlier. Hey, Jay, this has been great. I love having you on. Tell us, if people want to find out more about owning a Paint Easy franchise, how are they going to go about that?
Yeah, painteasyfranchising.com or just painteasy.com would be a good place to start. Then also brand1fd.com. We have a development team that works with us from Brand One Franchise Development, and they would be the ones to provide any kind of videos or answer any questions as well throughout this whole process.
Okay, well, this has been another great episode of Emerging Brands. We've been talking paint. It's a really good opportunity. Love this model because of the fact that you don't, if you're using the subs, it's a lot easier. You don't have to be a painting pro. You need to know business, and so you don't need experience in the field. You can get into this. Paint Easy is giving you all the support you need. It's definitely something, if you're thinking about a home services field, period, regardless of what it might be, this is one you're going to want to check out because it's got a lot of advantages, and you've got a semi-absentee and absentee, model here if you're willing to put someone in place that you trust, to be able to run it for you. So great opportunity. Definitely check it out. My name's Cash Miller. I'm the host of Emerging Brands. Franchises on the Rise. I'm also the CEO of Titan Media Works. We do podcast production. Jay, thank you for being on. It's been a great episode. And hey, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.